Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This one's going to be about Legend of Korra and Avatar's Chronicle, the new book coming out May 21st, 2019 from Inside Editions. This is going to be the Korra version of the Avatar Legacy book. The same basic type of book in that it's only 64 pages. It's going to have a bunch of inserts like letters, postcards, that sort of things like Avatar Legacy had. But obviously this time, instead of it being a kind of scrapbook that like Aang is putting together for Tenzin, this time it's Tenzin asking Korra to put a scrapbook together to basically chronicle her own journey to sort of pass on to the next Avatar, given that in her time the other knowledge of the past Avatars was lost, and so why not, you know, have Rava store the knowledge of Korra, but also her chronicle her own journey as well. So again, this is the Amazon listing here, just to explain to you what the product is. But these preview pages that I want to talk about here, we get 10 of them. I found them on the, I think, Simon & Schuster website, which is, it's not the publisher's website, but it's you know, a book publisher. They have them up. Still no cover for the book. But I believe Avatar Legacy was very late in having the official cover go up. It had a placeholder one for a very long time, and I do think we got preview pages before the cover, but still kind of a weird thing. But either way, we get these preview pages here, and you know, it's interesting. You can see here from the kind of zoomed out view, this is very clearly 2 pages. It's page 6 and 7. And obviously, I think before this, there's probably just some credits pages. I really do feel this is probably the very first page of the book. And yeah, anyway, zooming in on it, you know, it is, as you can see here, explaining Tenzin asking Korra to write this book to, you know, chronicle her story and to help the future generations and future avatars. It feels in character, you know, written from Tenzin's perspective. There's not a lot of new information in there, but you know, Tenzin thinking about the future, Korra saying she's going to do that. She's recruiting leading experts on her journey to make it happen. The picture, as you can see here, is, you know, Avatar Korra triumphant with large dog by artist Iki. And Tenzin being like, no, this isn't really what I'm thinking about. So again, Tenzin wanted it to be very serious. Korra wanting to have more of a kind of fun time with it. Korra does the opening sort of letter here, as if to the next Avatar in line, and of course she again is basically getting that across. She's gonna try her best to make the information heavy, but that's not her style. Lesson 1: sometimes being an Avatar is all about multitasking and delegation, at least until the big finish. Yeah, like it's again, it feels it's in character for Korra. I think that's probably something I'm going to say a lot throughout these pages. It all feels in character, somewhat well written, but there's not a lot of substance, a lot of new information here, and that's what we want out of these books, is new stuff. Even if it's just tiny little additions, new stuff to add on to what we know. And there's not really all that much here. So we'll move on to the next couple of pages here. The first page covers Naga, the second page covers Tonraq and Senna, as well as the Order of the White Lotus. And I think it's pages like this where they could definitely expand on. Like, it's nice that they mention animal guide. That's a term that really only kind of came up once in the show, and then it's more been like the fans sort of keeping the term alive, but it's nice to see it mentioned here again. And it's cool, like mentioning like Naga's my best friend, immense help to me over the years, tracking, you know, threatening. She's really a sweetheart. You know, I hope you'll have an animal guide like Naga who will always have your back. Again, she's writing this to an Avatar in the future. I feel they could have added in something that kind of recaps how she met Naga, because we have that from the comic. So it feels a little, again, light on content, like there wasn't a lot of research done to really put the book together, but you know, it is what it is. The new art there for Naga is actually, I think, quite nice. Different style, but I think it works. Similarly, this nice image of Senna, Tonraq, and younger Korra is also really nice. And again, you can see here, like, little mentions like this, you know, Korra talking about, you know, I knew Katara grew up without her mother. I guess I never realized how small her family started out, because obviously she only knows Katara as having this big family, like 3 kids and stuff like that. Just kind of realizing that it was kind of just her brother, and her father kind of initially. So interesting. She says, now that I'm older, I'm starting to understand that all those unnecessary rules were just my parents looking out for me, protecting them. They did their best to protect me. Reflecting on the other books and stuff like that. The other thing we'll get to, and I think the last page we have here, is that this is being written a decent amount of time in the future. I'm not going to say like multiple years, but there's a specific mention on one of the upcoming pages of her saying like 6 years have passed. So just keep that in mind. We'll come back to it when I get to that section. Ordered White Lotus here. Formed many years ago, just like very generic. Could you not put even a hint about how old it is in here? Secret society. But since the time of Avatar Aang, not so secret anymore. Nothing new here, when I think this is the clear opportunity to add something to the Order of White Lotus and what they're about. Next page is the Southern Compound and the Healing Hut. Again, a nice reference here to the other kidnapping attempt, like the initial one that we didn't see, but we were told about, which is quite nice. And again, referencing that's why it was insisted that she stay in the compound. And then on the other page, again, just the Healing Hut, referencing that this is where she learned from Katara how to heal, to mend wounds and broken bones. This referencing stuff from book 2, Janora's spirit being separated from her body, me being poisoned, all that sort of stuff. Reference to Boomy there. It's fine, but like, again, add on stuff. Tell us not stuff that we don't already know. This just feels like they're sort of expanding on this very basic, obvious information that we already know about. So next 2 pages here, we get Air Temple Island. Really nice image there. I think it looks amazing. And Korra's version of airbending principles. Meet resistance, switch direction at a moment's notice, circular movements, mind and spirit be free, meditate, meditate, meditate. Again, in character, no extra insight. Next page is Milo. Again, very in character here. Of course, he would do something like this. He's so kind of funny, intense, I suppose, like that he would go overboard. Like, he is the master. He's doing this fancy art, and be the leaf. Don't look to your right, look to your left. One of these people will not make it out if you're alive, of course. Non-traditional sources of wind are your friend. Don't let your sisters tell you otherwise. Referring to his fart bending, of course. Nice image here of it being shown off. Treats are not just for ring-tailed winged lemurs anymore. Reward yourself accordingly. And then patent pending on the fact that this is called Milo Way. Not responsible for injury sustained if subject is unable to handle that much Milo. So, fun in character, pretty nice. And then the last 2 pages here of the preview, at the very least, bringing us up to page, what does it say down here? 27 into the book. We haven't seen all of those pages, of course. They skip some stuff, but again, nice image here of like the fire ferrets basically together with Pabu, hanging out together. It's fun, very nice. And here's the reference here in the dialogue here. Sometimes it's hard to believe how much has changed in 6 years. When I first met Mako and Bolin, they were fresh from working for the Triple Threats, just barely making rent, living above the pro bending arena and not on the streets. Now they're Republic City detectives, keeping those same streets safe so we never have to worry about crazy revolutionaries. So let's stop here for a second. 6 years. And the reference to them both being detectives is clearly trying to say that, like, so Turf Wars is 6 years from the start of the series. And especially because, like, Turf Wars ends and Bolin isn't a detective anymore, so it's kind of like, do they have the timeline here wrong a bit? Because, like, Korra is 17 at the start of the series. 6 months passes between book 1 and book 2. And most people just assume, okay, Korra is 18 at the start of book 2. Only a couple of weeks pass between book 2 and 3. And again, most of the books, not a ton of time passes like in the middle of each book. So the only real time skip is between book 1 and 2. And then between obviously between book 3 and 4 is where we get the 3-year time skip, is what it is, which brings Korra up to being like, 21 at the very least, maybe 22. Again, it depends on how much you interpret, like when her birthday is for the book 1 going into book 2 situation, that sort of stuff. But that's kind of up in the air. So then, how much time passes between the end of book 4 and the start of Turf Wars? I need to read Turf Wars again, but it's definitely not 2 years, which it would have to be here, in that, like, you can say, like, okay, 4 years have passed from the start of the series to the end of the series, in or around. You could maybe stretch that to 5 if you have to, but even that feels bad. Saying it's 6 years feels not right at all. Because the book starts, obviously, with, like, the idea that, like, Bolin ends book 4 with no job. Turf Wars starts, and he's just kind of, like, recently become a cop. I get the feeling there's perhaps some mistakes here, which is unfortunate. Again, mentioning years in Avatar and Korra seems to be a huge challenge for them. They can't seem to keep track of it. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but the second I saw that, I was kind of like, that doesn't quite fit. Because the 6 years at the same time as saying they're both Republic City detectives. Unless Bolin goes through a bunch of other stuff and then eventually comes back to being a Republic City detective 6 years on from, like, the start of Korra, and after a couple of comics he goes back to that, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, she says, anyway, moving on. We're all busy, I know, but I sometimes miss the old days, when it would be rare for a day to go by without hearing their brotherly bickering or watching some new trick that Bolin thought Pabu. It's really crazy when you think about how much Republic City has changed ever since Aang and Zuko established it so many years ago on what was once territory of the Fire Nation. Maybe that's where its strength comes from, knowing how to change. It's faced so many threats over the years, each of which left its mark, and yet somehow it's still standing. Maybe that's why it's come to feel so much like home, or maybe it's because so many of my friends call it home. So, pretty nice. But again, not a lot of information here. I think the new art seems pretty cool. There's of course going to be some inserts along the way that you can pull out. I assume there'll be like a map of Republic City or something like that. Postcard from Republic City, Pro Bending Arena thing, poster. That sort of stuff will be along the way. That was the actual writing was like the weakest part of Avatar Legacy, apart from, I think, there was one Katara letter to Tenzin that was really nicely done. And similarly here, I get the impression there probably will be a handful of interesting pages. They've got a little bit more stuff to work with here in terms of creating the fact file version of the Korra information is going to be a lot more interesting. In that, I assume there will have to be a section that covers like Rava, Vatu, the spirit world, that sort of stuff as we go through, probably. And that will hopefully give us a little bit more insight. But again, the whole 6-year thing here, and then the direct contradiction with like Turf Wars and where Bolin is going into Ruins of the Empire feels a bit weird to me. And obviously there's still like half a year until this book actually comes out. I hope they have another run over that to get the kind of continuity right. In that would make sense written like now, but like, has 6 years passed? In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on that. The 6-year thing, like, maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way, but that doesn't seem right to me at all. That's the whole thing, because Turf Wars is directly dealing with the aftermath of book 4. It's not like they're saying, oh, it's been a year and Republic City is still in a mess, or it's been 2 years, so something's up here. That should be more like... That should probably be 4 years. That's probably what that should say there. 4, maybe 5 if you really want to stretch it, but not 6. So they're my thoughts on this book's preview pages. I'm going to get this book. I'm going to review it when it comes out. But I'm going in with the perspective of knowing that it's not going to be as good as like it could be. That it's only going to be, you know, have the information to a certain degree, and that there's not going to be a ton of new information like I want. There'll probably be something of note. There probably will be, because it looks like it is all new stuff that they're going to have to do the data book version of for the first time. But beyond that, it doesn't seem like super interesting, like it's a must-have just yet. But I assume there's probably some really interesting pages of Korra talking about like Asami. They probably went really hard in on them to make them really stand out. So those pages will probably be very interesting when we get to see them. So yeah, it's definitely made me a little bit more interested for the book, but it's definitely made me be like, okay, look, I was right to, when this book was announced, be skeptical, because it's sort of turning out the way I expected. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on these preview pages. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.